Welcome, everyone, to episode 125 of Puppet Masters and Castle Freaks, the internet's leading all things Charles Band podcast. I am one of your hosts, Jared Hornbeck, and I'm coming to you from San Cecilia, which you might not know is a neighborhood in Brooklyn. It is, in case you were curious. I mean, the palm trees make it look like it's not, but rest assured that it is. And in case you were wondering, I'm approaching this episode using only the newest, latest, most cutting-edge technology that I could find, wheelchair vision.
Oh.
So be on the lookout for that. But no, I'm not the only one who is wandering around and dodging renegade cars on the highway. No, who else is here with me?
Well, hello. This is Steve Guntley coming in from Austin, Texas, a.k.a. Little SoCal. This is the podcast about killer keychains, dog puppets, and, of course, Three-Fingered Harry. That's because this is the podcast about Crash. No, not that one. And no, not that one either. A very early directorial effort from Charles Band Productions that blends car crashes with the supernatural in a way that only Charles Band could. And we are excited to be going back to the 70s, back to a very, very early Charles Band movie. And we're very excited to have our special guest here with us today. Who is joining us, Jared? You are muted.
Sure. Yeah. No, we're very excited to have our guest with us today. He is a writer and a critic who you've probably read on the Weekend Warrior Substack, which he's been running for some 20 some odd years now. Also appeared in Collider and lots of other places. Definitely an authority on all things horror and exploitation, and maybe not Charles Band. We'll find that out, though, as we go along. But Edward Douglas is our guest today, and we're thrilled to have him here. So, Edward, thank you, or Ed, we'll call you Ed from this point on.
Sure.
Thanks for taking the time. I'm glad we finally got to make this happen.
Yeah, Jared, I'm so honored to have been asked to do this, first of all. And also, it feels like it's been like a year or more since we first talked about this, and just like getting the schedules together, and my schedule especially, just trying to get it together. And it's really interesting because you have this list of movies to cover in this podcast, and I looked at it as like, okay, I've heard of a few of these, but like not many. And I'm pretty sure you're the one who picked Crash.
I think I was like, this one should be a good fit. That was my thought process.
Yeah, and it was ironic because I literally haven't driven in 33 years. I rarely even get into cars, even like Uber, I am not a car person, even at the remote, even the least bit. Even though
because you saw this movie, and you were like, I can't be on the road.
Well, there was that. But oddly, I just wrote about Herbie the Love Bug, another car who seems to like drive at his own. So I was like writing that, and then I was watching this, and it was like, boy, those are very different movies.
Good, pretty. You know what? Not the worst double feature though.
Actually, kind of not.
Yeah. Maybe for kids. It would be a bad double feature, but yeah, I don't have any, so no worries there.
There you go. Well, we're very excited that we were able to get you on the show. I was just curious before we dig into this movie, because there is a lot to talk about with this movie.
Oh, yeah.
What's your relationship with Full Moon, Charles Band, all of low budget horror, all of that?
Well, horror itself, I mean, I've been into since I was kind of young, not that young, because I kind of had there was a period I couldn't watch any R-rated movies, or I was very sheltered in that sense. But and it's actually odd because I moved to New York in '87, and I feel like that stuff was still kind of going on in Times Square on 42nd Street, but like I didn't really, I don't know, I was kind of scared of that area. I mean, I'm a generally scared person, so but like that area was just that one block between 7th and 8th Avenue was very, very dicey. And the only movie I saw there was Throw Mama from the Train, and I was so scared by the audience. And it was always a big audience, but it was a scary audience. It was like not people just talking to the movie screen, but literally waiting for an answer. That's how bad it was.
Yeah,
there were people like asking questions of the characters in the movie, and it was just very scary. And I was still like in my young low 20s. And that was like my early experience with that block. So I didn't really see an exploitation. It's strange because I grew up in Massachusetts and Connecticut. Connecticut had a kind of an art house place, and some stuff came out there. I mean, I remember seeing a triple. I think it was like a midnight movie marathon. It was like Will Lustig's Maniac, 2000 Maniacs. I always get the band in the movie. 2000 Maniacs and Basket Case. Basket Case is still one of my favorites. But those are
rules,
but those are kind of like not really. I mean, I think Maniac's kind of closest to an exploitation movie, and I really didn't like it. I was just like, I thought the main actor. Actually, it's, oddly, I just wrote about Maniac for Collider as well. I just any movie I watch, I'll just write about there when I can, or I'll pitch. But yeah, so I didn't have that much experience with that, with the exploitation side of things. I didn't, and not with Full Moon either. It's like, it's weird. I feel like it's one of those things that I've kind of become more familiar with, mainly from this Final Exam horror trivia that Jared and I do from time to time. It's like you hear about these things, you kind of read about them. Like when Jared showed me the list, it was like, this kind of vaguely sounds familiar. This because I mean, Puppet Masters obviously I know, but like there's a lot of other stuff that's very like.
Edward, are you implying that Full Moon titles to movies might in fact be derivative of other movies that were produced and came out? Because this
You hold
movie
your tongue.
this movie certainly was not influenced by a movie that it beat into the theater called The Car.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have a theory about that. Yeah, so I did a lot of reading about this while watching it or after watching it, and yeah, as soon as I saw that opening scene, I was like, wait, is this the car? Did they rename the car or something different? But like, it was it's very. I have a theory about that. I have a theory about how this movie and the car ended up very close. But I'll say.
Well, I will
later.
say
Yeah.
there is. I would highly recommend anybody go on the Full Moon streaming app and watch this movie with the commentary by Charles Band and Dave Dakota.
Oh, I didn't
Because
do that. Yeah.
it's the two of them and it's pretty hilarious. But I will say, like in true Charles Band fashion, he like doesn't even. I will, in fairness, I watched the movie and then I watched it with the commentary for about 75 to 80% of the movie.
Okay.
I wasn't able to finish it with the commentary, so he might have prefaced this or said more about it. But he really very earnestly says, oh, like, oh, look at the car driving itself. Yeah, this was kind of a kooky idea I had. He does not make any reference to this movie, The Car, which I'm willing to bet, we've got a Beat Street and a Break-In and a Lambada and the Forbidden Dance situation going on here, where he had to have known that movie was in production and what it was about, and he raced to the finish line to get something out there and beat it into theaters, which he did. And I mean, I don't know if that's to blame for The Car having such a kind of disappointing theatrical showing, but I feel anytime that happens, like I think it was Cannon who got Break-In out before Beat Street,
Right.
and I think they put together. I may be getting this backward, but I think they did the Forbidden Dance one with Laura Harring, which they were trying to get out before the movie Lambada. There was in 1990 for like a week we were obsessed with Lambada.
Oh yeah. Well,
And,
it was the Forbidden Dance.
Right, but I mean, wouldn't have known that yet because
everyone did it. And everyone did it. It was forbidden, but everyone did it.
Forbidden. It's
like-
the latest
like
craze. It's forbidden.
Prohibition. Alcohol was not allowed, but everyone drank anyway. It was like,
Yeah, I'm like picturing like a Lambada speakeasy right now and what that would
totally,
look like. But like
A
then there was
grind
yeah. Now I'm just picturing Eric Nies. No, then there was the Lambada movie, the one with Melora Hardin.
Oh,
Which,
right.
the two of those movies ended up being fighting each other in production and then ended up being released on the same day.
Same day. And one
Which
was a
is
colon
awesome.
and one was a globus. And it was like just kind of indicative of the whole
Oh, that's
canon.
right.
It was it was the
It was
whole
the split.
rip.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like a specific attack on each other. Yeah, yeah.
So Ed, I'm curious, was what I was just kind of talking about, does that play into your theory a little bit?
Absolutely. That's 100%. I have a two-part theory. The first part of the theory, which I can say now because you kind of mentioned it, I feel like they knew about the car. They heard something about the car. Probably didn't read a script, but maybe knew the very, very basic. Oh, it's a car, killer car driving itself. Whatever. Maybe they knew about super, and they just kind of said, okay, what would our version of that be? And it's kind of like did their own version of it. But like obviously, they end up being very different. But I feel like they must have known there was something in the works and decided to like do something. It's like, hey, it's a good idea, but then it went way off the rails. Let's say.
Yeah.
Well, I almost envisioned it like Charles Band was like, let's just call it The Car. Let's get a poster made. And then
Oh
somebody
my
was
God.
like, hey, just a heads up.
Yeah. Well, we
Yeah.
have a lot to get into with the backstory of
Yes.
this particular movie. So let's talk about Crash! Exclamation point. This was released in January of 1977, so it was shot in late 76, probably. It's directed by Charles Band. It's written by Mark Murray, and it stars Jose Ferrar, Sue Lyon, John Erickson, Leslie Parrish, Jerome Guardino, Paul Dubov, and John Carradine. All right, so a little history and context for people who haven't listened to every episode. In 1977, Charles Band would have been about 26 years, or sorry, 1976. He would have been about 26 years old. He had just sort of started working in Hollywood. He had directed one movie at this point. It was a sex comedy called Last Foxtrot in Burbank that he is
And Steve,
embarrassed
I don't
of.
mean to interrupt you, but he pointedly, like, the commentary starts and Dave Dakota's like, this is your first directorial effort, right? And he's like, yep.
Yep. Yeah. He ignores that movie ever happens. I think it did eventually end up on the Full Moon streaming app, so like you can see it. But he's like, no, I'm not proud of that movie. That's not my feature film debut. Crash is his feature film debut. So this movie came about. So after Last Foxtrot in Burbank came out, he was really embarrassed. He had his name taken off of it, and he managed to score a minor hit as a producer with the movie Mansions of the Doomed, which we covered a couple months back. Really kind of grimy, nasty, like a 70s horror thriller about a guy collecting eyes. Yeah, lots of fun. But with that newfound capital that he got from the success of that film, he decided he was going to take another stab at directing. So Band goes into a lot of this in his autobiography, which again, if you have not read it, I absolutely recommend. Confessions of a Puppet Master. It's a fun read. Now he talks about his mentor, Frank Ray Pirelli, telling him very bluntly, you have to make a car crash movie. Roger Corman was doing a lot of those at the time, including Death Race 2000, which was a huge kind of underground hit. And I forget the name of the one that Ron Howard was in, but Ron Howard acted in one so that he could
The one that Ron Howard was in is Eat My Dust.
Eat My Dust.
Oh.
Yeah. He did Eat My Dust in exchange for being able to direct his first movie, which was another car crash movie called Grand Theft Auto. But that's what kicked off like Ron Howard's directorial career from there.
And I know it doesn't exist, but now I would like to see a movie called Death Wish 2000.
Yes, absolutely. I'm
Hey,
2,000
I'm a
years
car.
old. I'm here to kill you in the future. So this is how we end. But Charles Band, he's like, all right, I'm on board. I'll make this. I'll make this car crash movie, but I got to do it my way. Which is why we ended up with a very weird supernatural car crash movie about a woman who finds a statue at a flea market, which allows her to psychically control cars. You got to love that he went as weird as possible with this. Now, of course, around this time, like Frank Ray Pirelli insisted that you have to get a name. You got to get a star in this picture. It doesn't matter if they're kind of washed up. So he got three really that were all kind of on the downswing of their careers, starting with Jose Ferrar, who won the Academy Award back in the 40s, I believe, for playing Cyrano de Bergerac. Great classical actor, but he was definitely kind of nearing the finish line of his career. He'd kind of been in these like a slump of B movies for a little while now. So he was gettable, as was Sue Lyon, who at this point is still best known as Stanley Kubrick's Lolita, which she played when she was, I think, about 13 years old. So she's an adult in this movie now. And apparently, according to Band's autobiography, she had a sneaky little affair going on with his brother, Richard Band, friend of the show. So
how
good on
dare
ya.
you listeners, you heard our exclusive interview with Richard Band a few weeks back. How dare he not bring this up?
I can't believe he didn't spill this tea. It was crazy. Yeah. And then we also got a very like small, I think a 1-day performance from John Carradine, which was a little bit of a mistake, I think, because at this phase in his life, John Carradine looked exactly like Jose Ferrar. I thought they were the same person. So I'm like, oh, okay. All right. Yeah, they sound the same. They got the same kind of like whisper drawl sort of thing going on. But Charles Band, he talks a lot about like he really enjoys working with like these big names, like even though they're in kind of the twilight of their careers, because he says they're always like they know what kind of movie they're in. They're very professional. They always like show up ready. And he said they always have the best stories, because they kind of get to show up to the set and be sort of a big fish in a small pond, and everybody just like sort of hangs on their words and like wants
Oh
to hear
yeah,
all their
and at
old
the
Hollywood stories.
same time here, he would have had Richard Basehart and Gloria Graham to
Yeah,
tell him
just off
old
of
Hollywood stories there, A Mansion of the Doomed.
exactly. Yeah. So everything about the making of this movie sounds like the most gloriously stupid chaos. This is basically just Jackass before Jackass in a lot of ways. Charles Band had no idea how to make a car crash movie, so he just went out and bought every car that he could get his hands on for as little money as he could. And he didn't really care what condition they were in, as long as they had four wheels and could be disguised to look like a real car. Most of the cars you see exploding in this movie are non-functional, basically just scrap. Band really had no idea how to do this, and he just went out and bought every car he could. He and the crew spent weeks dropping cars off of cliffs, blowing them up, and generally destroying everything, little realizing that when you buy a used car, even one that you intend to destroy, you still have to pay for registration and licensing, and you have to go through the DMV and all of that. So a few weeks after production, Charles Band was starting to get inundated with messages from the DMV for his thousands and thousands of dollars worth of fines that he was missing out on because he didn't register any of these multiple cars that he blew up. So he got to learn a fun lesson off of that one. And really, like, this was insanely, this is one of those film shoots that's just like, so much could have gone wrong. So many people could have died. Like it does not sound like they were operating with really any kind of oversight. I don't even know if they had permits to be shooting where they were shooting.
The way that Charles Band tells these stories is so funny, because in the commentary, there's a scene where there's a cop car that flips a few times and rolls down a hill. And they cut to a shot where the car is rolling towards the camera. And he's very nonchalantly says, "Oh yeah, this is the shot where the car almost killed us."
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Just,
He talks
guerrilla
about
filmmaking 101.
in one scene they needed to get like a low angle, so they basically sent the film crew down into a ravine so that they can get like an underside of the cars going off the cliffs. And then like in the middle of the shoot, they're just like, oh shit, this car is going to crash into us. Like we need to run and get out of the way because we weren't really thinking about our own safety. And a lot of that is because that Charlie teamed up with a guy named Harry Woolman, who they call Dynamite Harry or Three Finger Harry. So you can kind of draw a line between where those nicknames came from. Who sounds literally like that one character from the Muppets, who's just like always blowing shit up, like Crazy Louie or whatever his name is. It literally just sounds like that guy. And Charles had all these crazy ideas of things he wanted to do, and Harry Woolman's just like, yeah, okay, I'm going to do it. Yeah, absolutely. So one of their crazier stunts involved the gas station explosion that you see in the movie. They built kind of like a paper mache facade of a gas station and set it up in this parking lot. And when they blew up the gas station, it looks great. It's a big, colorful explosion, but it stunned the driver who was supposed to be crashing into this. He veered off to the left and hit the house next to them, allegedly destroying the entire wall. Luckily, nobody was home, and they basically just like left a note and ran away. And Charlie has a great detail in his book where he says, like, yeah, I had my brother Richard go and write the note and like say that we'll pay for the damages. And Richard sheepishly later told me that he may have given a fake number. And they just basically ran away and didn't pay for the damage that they did to the house. So I hope that they would not do that now. But yeah, that's very much like, I think that kind of encapsulates the spirit of making this movie.
I mean, that's real. The spirit of making this movie is how many cars can we blow up? Was essentially the main thought process that went into it, because this is narratively wise. Stuff happens. I don't know that we could ever even have done a beat by beat plot synopsis of this movie if we wanted to, because narratively, the way in which things happen, admittedly by Charles Band himself, does not make sense.
Yeah.
And Dave J's book, Empire of the Bees, I'm not going to recount the way that he tries to surmise all of the action that's taking place, but the format in which it's written is kind of hilarious, where there'll be a whole long paragraph of regular typeface explaining something that's happening in a scene or collection of scenes, and then there'll be a one sentence paragraph under it in italics repeated each time that just says, meanwhile, a black convertible with no driver causes a car crash. Because
Yeah.
really this is like two movies cobbled together. But you know what, like, I don't know, I had fun watching this stupid
Oh, look,
movie.
I had absolutely fun. It's gobbledygook. It absolutely makes no sense at all. But yeah, no, it's absolutely a blast.
Yeah, well, I gotta say that I think it's a pretty decent action flick for, I mean,
Yeah.
for 70s action movies. I mean, that was these are the kind of car stunts that inspired Quentin Tarantino to make Death Proof, and it's like
Exactly.
they are on par. And that back then in the 70s, I was alive, unfortunately, and those were like Burt Reynolds movies, James, all those movies, action movies, were so keen. And I feel like maybe this whole supernatural aspect, that whole like other movie, is another movie. It's like it's so strange because the action is so good, and then maybe they had that idea from the car to do something with that, but then
Well, we're
it's
on
like,
probably the third year of Possession being real hot.
Yeah.
sure. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh sure.
exactly that.
Oh,
That must have
absolutely.
been.
Yeah.
It didn't really occur to me at first, but I'm like, yeah, that absolutely must have been a calculation. Like this must be.
I mean, that's
drafting off
basically
of
like a little
this.
Pazuzu keychain that she's got.
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's for sure. But it's like it is that weird thing because it cuts between the two. Like literally we see her like she's. We should mention this. Definitely part of the plot. Important part of the plot. That basically she is driving her car and is attacked by a dog, and she crashes the car, and the dog is her husband's dog, I think. It was really weird. I never really fully understood their relationship. But apparently she was driving, a dog attacks her, she goes off, gets amnesia. But like everything after that, it's just kind of like they keep showing this car, keep showing these crashes, cuts back to her. She's lying in bed. Sometimes she has these red eyes, and obviously
Yeah.
that she's, it was never quite clear because we even see some of these empty car. That's the other thing, is that this catalog is basically empty, and they make a big deal about showing it. It is a real car driving empty, and no one's in it.
Yeah.
Pre visual effects. But the thing is, we see that in the movie before we even see her accident. So it's never really clear why. We already know about this car.
That's a weird aspect of it. Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff in that movie.
Well, and it's that car effect actually is quite good of like them driving around. Apparently, they pulled this off by just building a little metal pod under the back seat, and there's a stunt driver under there, like pulling wires, and he can't see. He doesn't know where he's going. So
Yeah,
you
it's
can
wild.
you can see in the movie like that car is veering all over the road because he can't see shit.
Yeah, if this movie were a failure on all other accounts, which I don't think it is, that would still be noteworthy. That part looks pretty awesome.
Yeah. And again, I haven't seen the car in a while, but I feel like it didn't really make that much of an effort. I think it was like this is like a convertible, so you see the seats, you don't see any. There's nothing, like none of the tricks that usually use to make it seem like a car is driving itself.
Well, one thing that Charles Band loves to do in the commentary is point out continuity errors. There's like a moment where one of the cop cars, I don't think it flips. I think it just kind of like goes on like up a catapult ramp or something, and then kind of like goes flying. But you cut, and if you really look closely inside the windshield, you can see like the stunt driver with a helmet on.
Yeah,
and then it cuts back to the cop with no helmet on. He draws attention to that too. But him and Dave Dakota, because Dave Dakota was around at this point.
Yeah.
10 years later, he would direct his first feature for Charles Band, but he was a young kid, kind of just along for the ride here, no pun intended. But they talk about, a lot of the effects and how they were done, and they have some fun with it. One of my favorite, so I think Sue Lyon, she's a nice recognizable face in the movie. I will say I'm going to be missing VHS Fest at the Mahoning Drive-In, unfortunately, which is an event I like to go to every year, but this year it just didn't work out. And I would have watched 5 more hours of her walking around a swap meet in a drive-in.
I really would have. Yeah. I just loved the vibe of that whole like flea market thing that they had going on. It's like, yeah, that was very nostalgic for me. My
Yeah, I
dad used
want
to
her to
drag us to
just
those.
pick up a pair of bell bottoms, look at them, put them down, go to the records, thumb through, pick up a copy of Frampton Comes Alive and
Absolutely.
Silk Degrees, and put them under her arm and walk away. And all while you have this kind of like very 70s procedural or like Charlie's Angels style theme music that's playing in the background during this. I will say, like, you have Andrew Belling who composed this music. I don't think he really composed it. According to Charlie, it was like he used temp tracks
Oh,
of
I'm
stuff that
sure.
was just kind of
Yeah.
around, which is surprising because like that's the guy who wrote the songs for Fairy Tales and Cinderella and did, especially with Cinderella, a pretty good job with that music, all things considered.
Yeah.
Here, Charlie kind of alludes to the fact that he's half-assing it a little bit. But I think like, yeah, like the vibe of that part is great. The movie was shot in like I forget what the ratio cinemascope though, so it's big and
Yeah.
it looks good. Like I feel like it's been preserved well.
Yeah, there's a
But
new restoration that looks, like they cleaned it up as well as they could. Yeah.
yeah, and to get some of these kind of nice looking 70s shots here, the DP of this movie, Andrew Davis,
Oh,
the Andrew
really? That
Davis, who would go
the
on to direct The Fugitive and
Oh,
Under Siege and a bunch of other movies.
yeah.
wow.
The surprisingly good children, but not only for children movie, Holes.
Holes
Oh,
is
wow, I remember
good.
that one.
Holes
Yeah,
is good.
sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
So
No, I
going
like
back to
that movie.
Sue Line for a second, I think it's interesting the fact that well, this wasn't that long after Lolita. It was like 15 years or less, like less than 15 years.
Yeah, she's still a
About
young woman.
15,
Yeah.
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 She's still fairly young. She's in their like mid to late 20s, and but oddly, she only acted for another couple of years. She like Alligator was her last movie
In
that she was in
1980. Yeah.
1980,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and that was like, and she must have been, I mean, 30 something, whatever. I mean, I'm sure she got married or whatever, but she never acted again. She literally just stopped acting altogether. And I'm not sure there was. I mean, there was a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff about Lolita that maybe she was sexually abused by someone, and she had some mental issues, or whatever. But I mean,
Hmm.
she lived until she was like 73. She lived until like 2019 or 18 or something
Yeah.
like that. So she was still alive,
2019.
but she just stopped acting altogether. I'm not really sure if it's kind of a combination of Lolita and making some really bad movies but I mean she's good in this. I think she's really good in this, and it's kind of actually a shame because a lot of the movie her face is bandaged up a lot. It's
Mhm.
kind of, you have this beautiful blonde woman but she's kind of in bandages and some some weird red eye contact, but I don't know what they did to get those red up glowing eyes, but they weren't very good or convincing at all. They were strange.
One thing that's interesting about Sue Lyon to me is rumor has it that she was the original Bonnie in Bonnie and Clyde.
Oh
Oh,
wow.
no
I
kidding.
And
can see
then
that.
she was replaced at the last minute by Faye Dunaway.
Wow.
I was looking up here. I did not realize she was briefly married to Hampton Fancher, the screenwriter for Blade Runner. And yeah, she was married, looks like 1,
5
2,
times,
3,
6
4,
times?
5 times. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, from what it sounds like, she did suffer from bipolar disorder and likely just kind of had to step away. Very sad, but I always respect the decision of an actor to walk away, like
Yeah.
instead of just kind of like beating into the ground forever and ever. So and Alligator's a pretty fun movie, like if
Oh, I like it. Oh, I love it. Yeah.
that's a fun one to end
The
on.
thing is, the Bonnie and Clyde thing is kind of crazy because I mean that would have changed her whole career. I mean, if she had done Bonnie and Clyde, it was even like a tenth as good as Faye Dunaway was in that movie. I mean, that would change her career. Her whole career would have whole life would have changed.
Yeah.
So it's like very I mean, I'd love to find out more about what happened there. That I mean, obviously Faye Dunaway is a great actress. So
Oh yeah.
so
I mean, yeah, no, she doesn't get a whole lot to do in this movie, like because as plot dense as this thing sounds on paper, as hard as it is to kind of describe what's going on in this
Mhm.
movie in like a simple log line, not really a whole lot happens. There are a lot of car crashes that are mostly unrelated to anything, but they look great. There's some stuff with Jose Ferrer in his wheelchair, kind of rolling around the house, muttering. Like, I was not really clear what was going on, like with that opening scene. So was she previously with a guy, and then he got in a car wreck, and he died, and then she married?
yeah, that's
Jose
what I
Ferrer?
never understood that either because I thought I wasn't sure because he was talking about like, wait, I kind of didn't really understand it because she obviously had amnesia, so she didn't remember him, but he remembered her, and he sent the dog to kill her. That dog was literally, and I don't know how you convince a dog to kill someone while they're driving, but
Okay, yeah,
it
we need to
happens.
specify
It happens.
this
It
is not a
happens.
supernatural dog. Okay, this is just a
No.
Doberman Pinscher that can chase a car, jump into it, immediately turn into a bad sock puppet, and attack a woman.
Right.
It is such a wild puppet,
Yeah.
absolutely hilarious, and it's just such a crazy move.
And a major spoiler, and this is for that website, Does the Dog Die? She literally possesses the automatic wheelchair to kill the dog that attacked her. So she
In a
like
scene I found
she-
genuinely very upsetting.
It was very upsetting. I mean, it was very upsetting because even though the dog is I mean it's a dog. It wasn't.
It's a dog.
It just did what it was told to do. But it's a very strange thing because she's possessing this car, and all of a sudden she's like, oh wait, I can possess a wheelchair as well. I'm gonna send it to kill my husband's dog, even though
Right.
he still has amnesia. There's a lot of stuff like, does she have amnesia, or is that little idol, doing her bidding in some way? That's just one of the many scenes in the movie that's kind of like, well, I don't get this.
It's so silly, and like again, like we didn't need the amnesia element. We didn't need the whole there's a feathery haired doctor who's kind of like investigating and also being kind of a love interest, and he just does not register at all.
So this is my favorite part of the commentary.
Yeah.
I don't know if they didn't get along on the shoot or what, but Charles Band makes fun of John Erickson so much. He just has nothing but nice things to say about all the cast. And then when John Erickson's credit comes up, he's just like, okay, so if I feel like I don't have something nice to say about anyone in the cast, I won't. And then he just says nothing. And then every time John Erickson's on screen talking, Charles Band is just imitating his voice and then going, oh, look, yeah, he's got that expression. Oh, look, he's whipping out his other expression. Like he hates his guts. And it's so funny because he's just like, he kind of backtracks and is like, oh, I probably should be nicer in case he like hears this, but I don't care. And then he just talks more shit. It's so funny because, yeah, I don't really understand the purpose of this character. He doesn't really do a whole lot. And again, it's probably a mix of, Charles Band he doesn't even really mince words. Like he calls him a bad actor. And then it's also kind of a, narratively loose script, if you will. So it's kind of like, all right, there's not a lot for him to do, or like if we're having a hard time figuring out how these things tie together, where does he pull his motivation from and how he's delivering some of these lines? Like he probably needs a little something. And Charles, in all fairness, was probably like, dude, no one cares. This movie's about cars blowing up.
Right. I was just looking this guy up. I was not really familiar with his work, but he's been in quite a bit. He's in a lot of good movies. He's in Bad Day at Black Rock, and he played Pretty Boy Floyd, and it looks like he might be in this because he debuted in the Broadway production of Stalag 17 that was directed by Jose Ferrer.
Oh.
So
yeah,
I think that might be a favor that he got him in here, but
might have been casting that Charles Band didn't want. Maybe, I don't know what the reasoning is, but he's so charitable to everyone else in the movie, like including like Leslie Parrish too, who I recognized from. I mean, if there's ever a time to branch off into more exploitation, audience, if you have not been made privy to the BRCU, or the Bill Rebane Cinematic Universe, as I call it, you should definitely watch Giant Spider Invasion, which is where I recognize Leslie Parrish from. But she was I think they were saying that John Erickson maybe was a TV actor also at some point, and she was a TV actor, but I know her from that movie.
I will say go ahead.
Oh, I was going to just say, when you're talking about the DVD commentary on this, I don't listen to many DVD commentaries, but some of the ones that I most remember are the ones where there are people basically bashing other people in the movie. And I remember one of my favorite commentaries is the Resident Evil, the first Resident Evil movie, and they literally are just like a bunch of them hanging out, and whenever someone's on screen that they want to like make fun of, they just go for it. It's really, I wish I had more time to listen to more, and I don't really collect DVDs or anything, but like there's so much stuff like that which is so hilarious that you know they go, yeah, that no one's gonna, none of the guy's never gonna listen to it. So
Well,
it's
it was
like,
a happy accident that I found it because
oh
it
wow,
was I was on the Full Moon streaming app and I watched the movie the first time and I was like, you know what? I have a little bit of time. Let me pop it on a second time just to be a little, maybe a little more familiar and maybe take note of a few other things. And right there next to it in the search was Crash commentary. And I
Mm,
was like, what is this? And so I popped it on, and sure enough, it starts and it's, hey, I'm Dave Dakota, I'm Charles Band. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm leaving this on. This is going to be the second way that I'm going to see this movie.
yeah.
Uh,
wow, that sounds amazing though. I mean, after seeing the movie, I'm like, oh, I want to know more about this stuff. Maybe that's my maybe I guys got to do the Full Moon streaming app. I think.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's how I get you. That's how you fall into the commentary trap, you know. Yeah, yeah. You just hear one good one and you're like, God damn it, I'm gonna listen to all of these now. Yeah, I will say, just to close the loop on John Erickson, I was looking up his IMDb and his very final film credit was on the TV show version of Crash, based on the
What?
2005 movie, which
That's
I
amazing.
have to imagine was a intentional reference and not just
Oh.
a paid gig.
Well, oddly, the other reason why it's odd having me on this podcast is because I actually am one of the people who still defends Paul Haggis's Crash. It was my #1 movie that year.
Okay, I was gonna say, let's rank
yeah.
our crashes. Let's rank
Oh,
the 3
well,
crashes here.
oh,
Okay,
I
well,
love where this is going.
yeah, well, this is going well. So this is the thing. So I saw David Cronenberg's Crash in theaters. I was a fan of The Fly. I was a fan of some of the other things, and I hated his version of Crash. I thought, like, again, I was pretty what's the proper term for like, I'm very like white bread. I'm not like, I'm a vanilla. That's the right term.
There you go.
I'm pretty vanilla when it comes to the horror in general. And that movie, just like, I was just like bored by it. I was annoyed by it. I was just,
That movie's freak shit. Yeah, no, it really is. Yeah.
But that was not. I was not. I've watched it again since then. But when I first saw it in theaters when it came out, I was like, oh, this is not good. But then Paul Haggis' Crash, loved it. It was my #1 movie that year. I still defend it. People want to talk about Best Picture winners, and people, I mean, yeah, probably Brokeback Mountain should have won, but still,
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, it's still a movie that I haven't watched it since then, but it's in 20 years. But when I saw it that year, it was my favorite movie. I loved it. I still defend it. People say it's the worst Best Picture, and I disagree. So.
Crash is definitely one of those movies that really took a hit by winning Best Picture. It's one of those like kind of strange monkey's paw situations where I think people would remember that a lot more fondly if it hadn't won Best Picture.
We call that the Chariots of Fire curse.
It's the Chariots of Fire curse. It's the Out of Africa curse. Yeah, there's so many like examples of movies like that just like didn't probably would have been much more better remembered if they didn't.
But I love the fact that you're approaching it that way because it's so nice to hear. Now, my own personal opinions about Paul Haggis's Crash aside, it's nice to hear somebody come in with that viewpoint because I feel like, at least for the last, because there was a period of time where people did champion that movie.
Yeah,
but I would say really the last like 15 years, like the main conversation has been just what you said. People making lists of worst Best Picture winners.
Yeah,
and I feel like that's the only context that I hear people talk about Paul Haggis's Crash in these days, and so it's nice to hear a differing opinion from something that's like the national sort of or conversation that we hear so much.
Well, yeah. That's the thing that makes the difference for me as a film critic. I mean, I'm always like, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. I'm not influenced by other things so much, but that said, I still think Paul Haggis's Crash should be my #1, even though I haven't seen it in a long time.
Okay.
But I think Charles Band's might be second before Cronenberg's. I would probably watch.
This is interesting.
I would probably watch Charles Band's Crash again because it was so strange and funny. And I didn't even tell you about the funniest kill, which I thought, but we can get back to that.
Yeah, I think I might be the opposite. I think I gotta go Cronenberg Crash and then Haggis Crash and then Band Crash. Like if I'm being fully real, because
I'll come in and split the difference then.
Okay.
All right. Cronenberg Crash, then Band Crash, then Haggis Crash. But that's not really that ranking means nothing because all 3 movies I find watchable in different ways.
Sure.
And so it's like, what mood am I in to watch the certain kind of movie will dictate which, version of Crash I'm in the mood for. But yeah, if we want to like bring this to, you know, what we can dub like a goofiest kill segment. Ed,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
what was your favorite one here?
Well, there's this arguing couple who are basically just arguing. We're watching them driving along, whatever, and they didn't even encounter the. I mean, I think the Cadillac just zoomed past them, and they're like, "Oh, the car, whatever," and they, whatever, and they zoom past them. But then they die when this police car comes flying over a cliff, crashes down on their car. We don't see any blood. We don't actually see them like another filmmaker would have probably like really made it gory, like head smash, whatever, you know. But then they kind of just crash in the car, drives off, and we don't hear money. We don't know what happened to them. It's like there's a lot of stuff where we're like, well, what happened to them? Are they did they survive this? It doesn't look like they would have survived it.
Did they make it to that road they were trying to find? Like, they
Yeah,
said
the
the
road-
name of the road a handful of times.
Yeah, they tried to find the road. Yeah.
That was such an odd scene because it felt like they were trying to. It felt like a comedy scene in the middle of this movie, which has been
Totally.
like kind of deathly straight faced this entire time. Like I feel like 2 years after this would have been a Smokey and the Bandit gag, you know. Except we see the people crawl out and they're fine, you know. But something about like. The woman very clearly wearing like an old lady wig and being like 22 years old, and then the guy next to her is an actual old man, or maybe it's just the 70s and he's 30, but like you just can't tell. But like they're sniping at each other, they're having this like, oh, I don't need to ask for directions kind of like boomer humor thing, and then a cop falls on them and they die. Like
Right.
it's like these characters did not really deserve this, and it's just kind of a
Yeah.
weird like.
This might be shocking to both of you.
Mm.
The woman in that car, a non-actor.
What?
She was like the
What? Oh,
craft
my God.
services lady. or
She's the
something.
Kavanjane
According-
Wallace of her day.
But the kill is the kill is so weird because it's like you see it crushing the hood of the car. I mean, not the hood, the whatever the again, don't drive. What's that thing on top of the car?
The
The
roof.
roof of the car. Yes, thank you. Like, you see the cop car coming down, crushing the roof of the car. Obviously, they must be dead or very badly injured. But like then it's done. It's over and whatever. And the other thing, I'll mention another thing before we wrap up later, is that there's also this weird part of the movie where all of a sudden it shows every single car stunt. And
Oh yes.
Just randomly cuts to this montage of car stunts from early in the movie, and the movie's not even close to over yet. It's like there's still another 15-20 minutes, but all of a
Not
sudden,
not since Rocky 4 has the movie been so desperate to show you a montage of what happened 20 minutes ago.
I mean,
Oh my God.
this is a real hallmark, I think, of a certain breed of like ultra low budget kind of good bad movies. You're going to have a lot of shots of just cars driving. We're going to catch a lot of this commute because we got to pad that runtime, and B, we are going to really pad the runtime as much as we can by having a montage of things we have already seen.
It's really funny you say that, Steve, because Charles Band in the commentary points out that during the whole like swap meet flea market thing, that he's like, oh yeah, we're just kind of following her here with the camera to pad time.
Yeah, yeah.
She's walking around.
That's
Wow.
the great
Yeah,
thing
gotta
about him.
pad that runtime.
He cops to all of this stuff. Like he's
Wow.
like, yeah, look, y'all aren't stupid. I know
And-
what I'm doing. You know what
And
I'm
in terms
doing.
of like, you know, people driving cars, I mean, it was the 70s, man.
yeah.
You were mellow, you had maybe a VW Bug or a little van, and you just drove around, man. You
Yeah.
you didn't want a harsher buzz, you just wanted to drive around.
I mean, look at anything from like Manos, The Hands of Fate to Birdemic, you know, any of those movies that you're just going to have long sustained shots, sometimes with music, sometimes with no music, of just cars driving to their destination.
My favorite one of those is, I think it's a guy on a motorcycle driving though, but is the credit sequence to the movie Track of the Moon Beast, which is
sure.
basically just like a guy coming from one complete background end of a frame to the other side of the frame over like kind of like a rocky desert floor, while the title cards are in green font over it and you cannot read them.
Wasn't that the Manos thing too? Like they have
Yeah.
those long shots because they were supposed to be credits there and they just forgot to put them in. So
wow.
it's just this long shot of nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, Track of the Moon Beast is on up there with Manos. But this brings me to, you know, there is something about 70s exploitation drive-in style movies that I really love. And I was just at Mahoning Drive-In for Schlockorama,
Mm.
and this would have been such a fun movie to follow The Devil's Reign.
Oh yeah,
So like
yeah,
The
yeah.
Devil's Reign was the first movie of the night. Graydon Clark's Satan's Cheerleaders was next, which I don't love, and it's kind of like it's too broad and silly and stupid in a comedy way.
Wait, Braden Clark made a broad, stupid, silly movie? What?
I listen, the
Crazy.
director of Joysticks made a broad, silly movie. I'm afraid to report.
Joysticks, another movie that I think we'd remember better if it didn't win Best Picture. Yeah. Just another one of those. Yeah.
The
really.
favorite was Terms of Endearment, but somehow Joysticks pulled it through.
There's another dimension where Joysticks won Best Picture Oscar. There's a whole nother, like, it literally, I don't know what, like, probably humans are probably living in caves living in caves after that in that dimension, because it was just, it's funny. I first saw that movie at if you know Grady Hendrix, he did a 40th anniversary marathon. That was one of the movies, and I was like, holy crap, this is like I don't know how I missed this in the 80s, but I'm kind of glad I did. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's a whole, we've sort of avoided it, which is shocking given what we do for this show. But when you get into like this sort of juvenile teenage boy comedy in the vein of Porky's, that Joysticks kind of falls into, I mean, there's some hot garbage.
Oh boy,
in that, and I'm not really looking forward to when we get to some movies that were aping that trend. Although I don't feel like maybe we won't cover too many, because that really hit in the early 80s. And I feel like for the most part, with the exception of maybe like one or two offshoot Empire comedies like Buy and Sell or something like that, it sticks pretty close to genre stuff.
Which is always what
say more sci-fi or fantasy horror, which I'm happy with.
I mean, look at this movie. If you want a demonstration of like that's what Charles Band is more interested in. Like he's even going to take like what could just be a crime thriller or something like that, and he makes it supernatural and weird for no good reason. Just because that's what he's interested in.
Yeah, but this movie, like, it has all of the elements of, this is like, in my opinion, this is like a perfect drive-in movie.
Oh, sure.
There's enough like what the fuck moments where you can laugh at what's happening on screen. The car driving effects and explosions and stuff are good enough to actually like keep your attention when they're happening.
Yeah.
And there's some familiar faces who are giving you, like, in Devil's Reign is so much fun because you have like a young Tom Skerritt and an unrecognizable young John Travolta. But then you've got, like William Shatner kind of at, maybe the same. I was gonna say he's probably about 45.
Yeah.
Or so when that movie came out. Although Tom Skerritt was probably actually the same age, so maybe I'm wrong about calling him a young Tom Skerritt.
Yeah, it's really hard to say.
Yeah, he's got the Josh Brolin look in that movie, and it's kind of, it's hard to tell if he's like an old looking 28-year-old or a young looking 43-year-old, and I don't know which one is which. But a movie like this is so welcome in that setting because it's got like the perfect amount of 70s sleaze. It's got the perfect amount of those just like meandering like scenes of like people just doing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you've been to the 24-hour horror marathon in Pennsylvania.
Oh, is that the Colony?
Colony, yeah. I've only been to one of them, but this very much seems like a movie that would be great to play at like 3 or 4 in the morning, where people are already like kind of falling asleep, but like it kind of would be hard to fall asleep during this. It's kind of like one of those movies like maybe it'll wake people up. It'll be like, holy shit, what is this movie? It's like I don't know how many of these of their movies they show there, but this seems like it'd be a perfect movie for that kind of audience.
Or it's got that like, wait, did I nod off for a second there? Why
right.
Did you have amnesia?
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to be completely awake for it. You just catch glimpses of it, and that's enough. That's enough to know what's going on, and it's. But I think it'd be very entertaining to see with an audience for sure. It's like I'm not sure how many of Charles Band's movies actually get theatrical releases these days.
Yeah. I was more of a fan of Mansion of the Doomed than Steve was. Because again, like I have my mileage, again, another pun, for this kind of 70s exploitation stuff, I think goes further than Steve's does.
Yeah.
A little bit, but man, I will definitely watch this again, and I would probably maybe even watch the two of those as a double feature. I had a lot of fun watching this movie, and I enjoyed it more than I was anticipating. And I know it doesn't have a great reputation. Steve, I don't know about you, maybe we'll fall in different camps here. I prefer this to Laser Blast.
Yeah, yeah, I think I do too. I do too. But I think you're exactly right that this feels like a great drive-in movie because like a lot of these drive-in movies are, like you said, they're designed to match a certain runtime. And basically, they just need to have enough action scenes interspersed throughout so that when you're coming up for air from making out, like you can look at something cool. That's kind of what they're designed. But there's a lot of downtime, a lot of stuff that you just do not need to pay attention to, and that's fine. And I just appreciate that, like this has the energy of a first film. Like even though it's technically a second film, it has the energy of a first film. It has the hubris. It has the just kind of throw everything to the wall and see what sticks kind of mentality to it. And I there is a real sense of kind of danger behind this movie in that every one of them were probably very high on drugs and driving old junker cars at each other and could have died and probably should have died a million different ways. Somehow they didn't. We got this very strange movie, and everything else is history from here. Now, I didn't even mention, like, this movie was a success at the time, but at this moment, Charles Band was partnered up with like kind of a corrupt producer who basically just took all of the money. So like, I don't think Charles Band saw any money for any of his movies until like Metal Storm or something like that. Like,
Yeah, he tells
he
you
got
that
none of the
in
tourist trap money. Yeah.
minute one of the commentary, the group one credit comes up and he goes, huh. Like,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
there's like, oh,
Brandon
group one.
Chase, I believe, is the name of
Yeah.
the
And he's
guy
like,
that he.
oh yeah, how'd that go for Dave? Dave Dakota's like, oh yeah, group one. Like what this was this production company. And he's like, no, this was the distributor. And they said, you know, we'll follow up with you. And I never heard from them again and never saw a penny from this.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
It made money, but he didn't see a dime of it. Yeah, but it helped him build his reputation. He got to go on to make the two deeply beloved erotic musicals after this. So, you know, he's on his upward swing, I would say, for a while. But
Which is kind of crazy that to me that he had the faith, you know, in Andrew Belling to, I mean, maybe the songs and ideas were already in the works for
yeah,
Cinderella at the time, but like the way he talks about the score in this movie, it sounds like Andrew Belling really just used kind of track music that
Hmm.
was vaguely 70s sounding and didn't spend a lot of time on it. And so the fact that he
I love
put
the
that much,
score. I mean, I love the
oh,
score. I
I'm
mean,
much more
obviously,
forgiving of it than Charles Band
yeah.
was.
I mean, you could hear. I mean, you could hear the influences. If they weren't direct ripoffs. I mean, there's Shaft. There's all these other things in there, which are
oh
obviously
yeah,
ripped off from other things. But I enjoyed it. I like that kind of music. I love like these weird synth noises. I like all that stuff. So whatever happened with that music, I enjoy it, not knowing how it
Yeah.
came together.
Well,
yeah,
I did too, more than Charles Band, just largely negative about it. I did not catch the Richard Band cameo
yeah.
in the
Or the
movie,
Charles
but
Band cameo.
but
Yeah.
the Charles Band cameo I did see. He is a guy driving a van who comes out to help Sue Lyon while she's on the side of the road. He's got kind of shaggy, like 70s John Carpenter hair and
Mm-hmm.
a thin mustache. And it's kind of a blink if you blink and you'll miss him moment, but very young Charles Band at the time there. Uh, but you know what? Like you know, he is the reason why we do the show. And
Mm-hmm.
I think this movie is such a fun encapsulation of that kind of like don't give a fuck spirit
Absolutely.
of making stuff. And you know, he'll be the first one to tell you, like you said, Steve, this feels like a first film. He calls it his first film. He I guess I don't want to say blames, but attributes a lot of issues with the film to being a first time director.
Sure.
But he does speak with a lot of reverence for just kind of the batshit crazy way that they went about making a lot of these stunts happen. And so that kind of enthusiasm, I feel like it does come through on the screen. And this is one, and we didn't even talk about the poster. I think this is a great
Great poster.
poster.
Great poster. Really
And
chaotic.
yeah, and I remember like looking at the poster, knowing that this movie existed, never having actually watched it, just having read about it beforehand. Dave J doesn't love it. He writes kind of negatively about it in Empire of the Bees. And so I was kind of thinking like, all right, maybe this is going to be sort of a very talky, which it can be at times,
Yeah.
lethargic 70s movie with like the occasional car crash and the exploitative nature of it being like, we've got 50 cars, we're going to blow up, which, yeah, sure, maybe it's not 50, but there are a lot.
There's a
I thought
shitload.
that there
Yeah.
was a lot more action in this movie than I was anticipating.
Yeah.
And I had no problem holding my attention for its, 88-minute runtime. I dug it. I was kind of thinking like there might be, a couple of cool moments here, but we were going to find something like Laser Blast, which kind of just saunters through the desert heat for a while. And while this occasionally comes close to that, I don't think it has the same amount of dull moments in it because the narrative stuff is so kind of out there and doesn't really
Yeah.
make sense that it kind of keeps you guessing
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
that way. And I had a good time.
Well,
Yeah,
and I had a good
yeah.
time discussing it, and I think there was a lot of fun stuff to dig up out of this movie. Oh, sorry, I had to cut you off.
Sure. No, I was going to say that I enjoy it too. I mean, I would have loved to see it with an audience because I feel like the movie would even be more fun that way. But I actually liked it. I mean, I think honestly, if I were a producer or someone who like, I could see this movie and go like, oh, this could be cut down. It could be turned into a decent movie if
Yeah.
we have with a little more work on it. I don't know if Charles has ever gone back to rework any of his older movies, but I mean, I feel like this movie that could be redone and although the car is still better. Sorry.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. The car is still better.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Ed, so much for being here with us and for talking about this wild ass movie. It was a lot of fun to dig into. Where can people find all of your stuff?
Well, I write a Substack as the Weekend Warrior. I've been doing the Weekend Warrior column for over 20 years, but at various places. So I was Coming Soon a long time, and I did it there, and I went to other places. I did it there, and I do it for my Substack. I write for Collider. I write really odd mix of I'm like a feature writer there. It basically means I write about I'll pitch something. So I pitched something about Maniac. They said okay. I'm like, all right, I'll write it. I wrote something about Herbie. Like I said, I write about a lot of weird things, and sometimes I'm not sure I'll write about this one though. I mean, in theory, maybe I mean, I could probably figure out a pitch for it for the horror editor, but I just don't think she'll go for it. I think it's just too esoteric. I'm not even sure.
Maybe a car double feature. Yeah, like this one.
Yeah,
In the car. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I don't know, but yeah. For that, I do interviews for Cinema Daily US, and I've done some pretty cool interviews. I've done spoke to Lee Winnell earlier this year for Wolfman.
Cool.
Nice.
I feel like a lot of people I speak to are people I've known for like ages, for over the years. But yeah, but I enjoyed being on. Thanks for having me on this again. As I'm feeling I'm hearing and learning all this stuff about this. And oddly, speaking of exploitation, I don't know if you know about this Josh Johnson movie about Andy Milligan that played at Tribeca.
No.
Oh, okay. So Josh Johnson made a documentary about Andy Milligan, who was this schlock exploitation director from the 70s, and I somehow won a box set of The Dungeon of Andy Milligan.
Oh wow!
From Severin, and I won it because they asked a trivia question about music. They asked about I can't remember the question. I think it was the question. Well, the answer was Faster Pussycat Kill Kill.
Oh yeah.
And they asked about a band influenced by
Russ Meyer.
Russ Meyer. They basically asked a Russ Meyer question, but because I knew the band, I was like, oh, I got that question. And I got this Andy Milligan thing. So I think I'm kind of, even though I'm not gonna say my age, but I'm pretty old. I think I might start delving more into exploitation stuff from when I was like too young to see these movies. Because they sound really interesting to me. Like like something I might watch like late at night and where I don't have to write about something.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you should definitely do that because I feel like exploitation movies are best watched at night. I feel like this podcast is also best listened to at night. You just kind of get in your bed, pull your blanket up high, and just kind of close your eyes. And if you've been, along for this ride with the show from the beginning, or if this was your first episode with us, welcome. But the best way to let us know that you've been listening and enjoying everything that we bring to you week to week is to either on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or any podcatcher that offers rating and reviewing capabilities. Just drop us a 5-star rating, maybe a brief review if you feel so inclined to do so. It just helps us to reach a wider audience and get the word of the show out there. And Spotify comments are nice too. in the moment, you think of something we left out, something we got wrong, something that you have been yelling into your listening device at us, feel free to write it in a Spotify comment. If you want to keep up with the show, the best way to do that right now is on Instagram. You can follow the show at puppetmasters_Castle Freaks. You can follow me at _Giallo_Jared or Steve at Minotaur Matador. We update what we've got going on Threads and Blue Sky and in our Facebook group. And you can also listen to the show on YouTube with the audio versions of the show, which I know a good amount of people, that's how they get the show every week. So we'll keep posting it on YouTube. Maybe at some point we'll add some video to the mix too. But it's hard because this is a tremendous podcast that takes a lot of work, but it's not the only tremendous podcast that takes a lot of work that Steve's got going on. So, Steve, what else would you like to plug?
Well, I've also got a show I host called Cinema Arcade. That's cinema and arcade mashed together because that is what we do. We watch a movie and then we play the video game based on that movie. So we've got a lot of fun stuff coming up. I forget where we are in relation to this show. I think we probably would have just wrapped up our Lord of the Rings trilogy, which is an incredibly fun one to go through. We're going to be talking about The Hustler with friend of the show, Diana Goodman. I think we've got something on Monsters, Inc. coming up pretty soon. So lots of fun stuff. We get to talk about a huge variety of movies on that show, which is a real kind of treat for me. And this episode has been a treat for me as well. And next episode is also going to be a treat. Really excited. We're going to be having a triple feature where we are finally closing the books, at least for now, on the Subspecies series. We're going to be talking about Subspecies 4 and Subspecies 5. And as a little bonus, we're also going to be talking about a film called Vampire Resurrection. Why are we talking about that? Well, because that movie was directed by and stars friend of the show, Denise Duff, the star of the Subspecies movies, and, spoiler alert, the guest on our podcast for that episode. That's right. Denise is back on the show. We're so excited to have her.
Mm-hmm.
She rules. She's so funny. She's so cool. And I have so many questions about these movies. And I'm expecting her signature blend of candor and humor when we're talking about that. So
yeah, she's always a ton of fun, a ton of energy. And you know what? Like, I like the fact that we're talking to her about a movie she made because I know she has feelings. So I'm ready to, Denise, you can't see me, but I'm rubbing my hands together. I'm ready to rake you across the coals for some of the choices that you made in this vampire. No, I'm just kidding.
No,
We're gonna have
not
a
at all.
really
I think
lovely conversation.
I think
with
the
Denise.
choices that went wrong in that happened above her pay grade, but we'll get into all that. Yeah, that's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, so make sure that you stick with us for next week for our end of Subspecies triple feature and friend of the show Denise Duff returning. And if you like the show, tell a friend and make sure that you come back next week and that you listen to Cinema Arcade as well. And we will see you next time.